Let's be honest. Choosing new tech for your business can feel like you're lost in a maze, right? The stakes are incredibly high, and a wrong turn can be seriously costly. But what if you had a map? Well, in this explainer, that's exactly what we're going to give you. A step-by-step guide to making the right technology choice every single time. So, let's dive in.
I find this quote so telling. It just paints this picture of a much, much simpler time. Can you imagine one call to IBM and bam, you got the whole package: hardware, software, support, a true one-stop shop. But that world is long gone, which of course is why we're here today.
And this really gets to the heart of the problem we all face. When we're totally overwhelmed with choices, what do we naturally do? We tend to default to the big, familiar names. But just relying on reputation alone can be a huge trap. The biggest brand isn't always the best fit for you. So the real question is, how do we build a process that replaces all that guesswork with some real certainty?
All right, here's our roadmap for this explainer. First, we'll get a handle on this modern tech maze and see why the old ways just don't work anymore. Then, we'll dive into the absolute game-changing software-first rule. After that, we'll tackle the big build versus buy decision, create a powerful software scorecard, and finally, learn exactly how to pick the perfect system partner.
So, yeah, welcome to the modern tech maze. It is super complex, and honestly, relying on a gut feeling or some slick marketing pitch, it just won't cut it. Picking a familiar brand without doing the real homework isn't just a little risky, it can be a massive, costly, long-term mistake.
So, how do we find our way through this maze? Well, it all starts with one pivotal and frankly pretty counterintuitive rule. But trust me, getting this one thing right will guide every other decision you make from here on out.
And here it is. This is the golden rule. You have to choose your software first. I know it seems backwards, but just think about it for a second. The software is what actually does all the work, right? The hardware is really just the box it runs on. Starting with the hardware is kind of like buying a super fancy expensive oven before you've even decided what you want to cook. You gotta know the recipe before you buy the equipment.
Okay, so we've established we need to pick the software first. Awesome. Now we're at a major fork in the road. Do we try to build a custom solution from the ground up, or do we buy an off-the-shelf package that somebody's already made?
Before you make up your mind, let this number sink in for a second. A pre-built software package can cost as little as 10% of what a custom-built solution would. That is a 90% saving. It is an absolutely staggering difference that makes a really powerful case for at least exploring the buy option first.
And you know what? It's not just about the money. Think about the speed. You could be up and running in days, not the months or even years it can take to build something. Your internal tech team is totally freed up to focus on other priorities. Plus, you're getting lower risk and predictable costs, which helps you avoid that budget black hole that custom projects can sometimes become.
But look, buying isn't a silver bullet. The package might not be a perfect, 100% fit for everything you need. And if you modify it too much, you could actually void the vendor support. But here's the real challenge. Without a solid evaluation process, you can easily end up with the wrong tool for the job. And that's exactly why we need a system.
So how do we dodge those pitfalls? Simple. We stop guessing and we start measuring. We need a scorecard, a clear, objective checklist to systematically evaluate any piece of software we're thinking about buying.
I really love this visual because it shows that price is just the tip of the iceberg. What truly matters is everything that's lurking below the surface. And that true quality, it's only revealed when you actually look deeper with a structured, systematic review.
Okay, first up on our scorecard, reliability. Now, this is way more than just, does it crash? It's about resilience. When something inevitably goes wrong, how quickly does it recover? Can it handle a simple user error without having a total meltdown? You need consistent, trustworthy results every single time.
Next up, functionality. In other words, can it actually handle the workload? You've got to dig into the details here. We're talking file size limits, transaction volumes, all that stuff. The very last thing you want is a system that hits a ceiling right when your business starts to take off.
Then we've got usability. Put simply, how easy is this thing to use? How steep is the learning curve for your team? Is it full of confusing jargon? And hey, can it work across different devices and systems? If it's a pain to use, let's be real, people just won't use it. End of story.
Security, well, this one's absolutely non-negotiable. It really all boils down to one profound question. Who gets to see and touch your data? Strong, fine-grained access control is the absolute bedrock of any secure system.
Next, let's talk performance. You know, any piece of software can look pretty good on a quiet Tuesday morning. The real test is how it holds up under pressure. When you are at your absolute busiest, your peak, can it keep up? That's throughput. That's its capacity to perform when it really truly matters most.
And finally, and this one is so easy to overlook, serviceability. This is the entire support system around the software. Is the documentation clear and helpful? What kind of training do they offer? You have to remember, a fantastic product with terrible support is really just a disaster waiting to happen.
All right, now that we have our software scorecard, we can kind of zoom out. Because remember, you're not just buying a piece of code. You're entering into a long-term relationship with a vendor and buying a complete system. So it's time to evaluate the whole package.
So how do you vet a potential partner? Well, you become a detective. This list right here is your toolkit. Talk to their current customers. They're the real experts. Dig into trade publications. Check with consultants you trust. You can even look at their financial statements to make sure they're a company that's actually built to last.
This really breaks the process down into 3 simple, manageable steps. First, you gather all your intelligence. Then, you create a shortlist, and you invite them in for a live demo. This is your chance to really kick the tires. And only after you've seen the system in action do you make your choice and start talking contracts.
And here it is, the final checkpoint. This is where you evaluate everything as a single complete unit, the hardware, the software, and the vendor. You look beyond that initial sticker price to the true total cost of ownership. You double-check compatibility, and you verify their actual track record on reliability and support. This is the final gate before you commit.
So after all of this, what's the one big takeaway? It's actually pretty simple. The best technology decisions are never based on gut feelings, big names, or flashy ads. They are born from a deliberate, an objective, and a repeatable process.
And that leaves us with one last question for you to think about. The next time a big tech decision comes your way, will you be guided by a system or just a hunch? Because as we've just seen, that difference could mean everything. Thanks for joining me.